there's a kid, he said, I think it's fine to say that Shai is a better player than Kobe ever was. And then someone responded to him saying, without the championships, you might be cooking. And his response was, the championships don't even matter anyway. That's a team award. Which, number one,
Hmm.
Shea, as great as he is this season, being better than Kobe ever was, blasphemy. Number two, championships being a team award. Championships aren't an award. Championships are why you play the game. I don't care
Mhm.
about anything else. Championships are all that matters. I don't care what people say about stats, this and that. And there's been a lot of discourse online about Shea is having a great season. I mean, and no one can dispute that. He's having an all-time great season. But there's been a
Mhm.
lot of comparison talk between Shea and prime Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant's MVP season and Kobe Bryant. And now this is how I know I'm old head because they just keep bringing up the stats and so on and so forth. I think people fail to realize stats in this current era of the NBA are so inflated because of the pace of the play, the scoring that at the rate at which these teams score. The stats can't be compared like for like in terms of points per game or whatever it might be. But I wanted to get your guys' take based on the eye test, not using any stats. Where do you rank this season of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in comparison with, some of the former great MVP seasons or great players that we've seen in league history?
Wow. From a numerical standpoint, I heard this the other day. What he has done in terms of uh, averaging 32 points, I don't know, close to, was it 6 or 6, 6 rebounds? Are those his numbers right now?
Hmm.
Uh, the only one to have those averages and average obviously more points was Michael Jordan. Now that's again, that's the numbers, what the numbers have said. I think he's been phenomenal this year. And you to get in, I'm not gonna get in comparing him to Kobe Bryant. And they're two different type of players as well, in my estimation, or comparing him to Michael Jordan. What I will say, what he is doing, every big moment this season, he's shown up. Whether it's a marquee matchup, just here recently, Mo, I hate to bring this up, then when they just went and played your
No,
Celtics.
they did. They had a great
So
game.
yeah, he played great, showed up in a big way. When they go to the Garden, that's always a big measuring stick. How do you play when you go to New York City? 40 points there, plays great, leads them to a win. Any of the other marquee matchups that they've been on in terms of nationally televised games, this guy's shown up and shown out just about at every turn. Uh, and his what I love about how he's playing, his demeanor stays the same. He never really gets too high, too low. He just comes and competes, he plays, and you can see the biggest change, aside from some nuances he's added to his game from a skill perspective, his confidence level is off the charts now. You can just tell when he walks on that court now, he's not guessing, he's not thinking, he's not hoping. He knows he's the best player on that floor each and every night. And BJ will tell you as a player, when you can get to that zone where you know that going in every night, boy, you're tough to deal with when you add a guy who's 6'6" at the point guard position and has the skills that he has. But that mental toughness and that mental edge that he's displaying this year, to me, is terrific. And again, I don't want to keep harping this point, but Mo, he was my preseason pick for MVP this year, if you do
Hmm.
recall.
I do indeed. I do. Don't worry, we got that footage. We'll post that when the ceremony comes
Exactly,
around.
exactly.
Don't worry, Scott. We got you. We
Yeah,
got
he
you.
got you.
What about you, BJ? When you watch Shea play, who does he kind of remind you of? Are there any players from NBA history where you can kind of see a comparison to his style of play and the level at which he's doing it on the court?
Well, Mo, it's funny. It's as you get older, you have to have a sense of humor. So, to hear you say, "Hey, you're an old head," and I was just laughing. I was like, "Oh wow, this guy's an old head." And then you got the new school, right? These are terms. The thing that's really funny is as you get older, you realize, the one constant in life is change. So you have to be, able to change. For instance, when Scott came in as an executive in this league, the league was a lot different. And
Oh yeah.
Scott had to change in order as the players, the evolution, trends, and all these things. But Mo, as you get older, I'm going to encourage you to keep changing so that you don't become the old head. But you have to be old enough to realize the following. When you watch someone like Shai, you recognize, Mo, there's a thing called authenticity. You have to be authentic. You have to be real in your observation when someone asks you a question. Scott and I saw a man average 37 points a night with hand checking. I can't compare what's going on today to what we saw. Because if I tell you what I saw, you're going to immediately label me and say, oh, that's just the old head. We saw George Gervin play. We saw Julius Erving play. We saw these people. We saw Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins and all of these guys play. I'm not going to sit here in 2025 and start comparing the way they play today to when you saw a man do this with hand checking. Now, hand checking to me is what we should be discussing because the game and the physicality of the game and the way they defended was different. I would be thoroughly impressed if I saw a man play with hand checking and do what Shai is doing. And I'm not taking away, this is not Shai's fault. The rules have changed. The way the game has changed. That's a fact. So I'm going to be authentic and say, I'm admiring what Shai has done. I think Shai is the MVP. And I'm not going to compare what someone else has done just by bringing up stats because the game is different. We have to be authentic here. We have to be real here. We can't compare this to the 90s or the 80s or these other, we can't. There's nothing to compare. The game is different. Unless we start allowing players to play by the same rules of the game and change the game back to how it used to be played and what they used to do, I'm going to stay away from that argument. Shai's numbers speak for themselves, the way they play, the style, the pace, the physicality of an offensive player is a little different, right? You weren't allowed to play this way. So we know that. Unfortunately, if we say that, then people are going to say, oh man, he doesn't. No, that's what it was. Like as a guard, just as a guard, as a lead guard, we never had a chance to play watching the entire floor because you could hand check. All guards, any lead guard, you can ask any lead guard that played in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. You had to play with with your back to the back, with your back bringing the ball up the court because a guy had his hand on your waist. You had to do that to protect the ball. You don't have the ability now to just play in front because no one can touch you. That's a major change in the rules that allowed the players to play differently. Suddenly now you could play and attack people. So today's guards can play downhill. Well, in that era, you couldn't play downhill. So why am I going to compare one to another? I'm going to admire these players, admire the rules, admire the game as it has evolved. And that's what it is. So Shai has been phenomenal. Scott picked it at the beginning of the year. I think, I don't know, I can't remember who I picked, Jokic or someone.
I think Luca.
Tatum. No, I think you
Luka,
picked Jason Tatum.
Tatum Revenge
Jason
Tour.
Tatum. Jason Tatum.
Luka,
Yep.
Tatum, and all these
They've all
guys.
been great.
They've all
And
been
they've all
great.
been great. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. They've all been great. They've
And
all
I just want to admire these players for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so unfair when we start comparing these players because the rules matter. You know, when you watch a player today, I always think about this. Life would have been different if you're allowed to carry the ball. It just
Yeah, I saw that Luca the other day. He does the
They
rondo
called
behind
him,
the
yeah,
back,
they called him, yes.
but instead of taking the 2 steps for the layup, he takes another dribble and then goes for the layup. And I'm
yeah, I
looking at
mean,
it like, come on, guys.
these are things that I'll look at, and everyone's like, "Oh man, shooting threes." No, I just want to know what it's like to carry the ball and be okay with that. That's an advantage.
Yeah,
Get down to the
exactly.
park.
So,
You get down to the park.
yeah, so I'm going to admire him. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be real. But if you want to know the real story, there's nothing to compare. There's really nothing to compare because of the way the game was played. And we're talking about how the game was played half of the game because you're on defense half of the time. So this isn't an opinion. This is just what it is. So let's move on in our coverage. Shai could have easily, let me say, Shai could have played in that era.
No question.
However, it would have been a different game. And the way he's defended would have been different. The way they play and all of the step throughs, I can assure you, if he's trying to step through guys in that era, he probably wouldn't have done that a lot. Okay? Just because of the way the game was played. But it is what it is. It's fun to look at the stats because it gives you an argument. But for us who was there, we were there. Let me assure you, we were there. That wasn't happening. But he would have found another way to be impactful because he's that good. He's a talented young man. But so I'm not gonna. Last thing, because we were playing in that era, Scott and I were literally playing in that era. Okay. Scott, as a lead guard, knows there was no guard that was going to come down and be shooting as much as he's shooting as a lead guard in that era. So it's not even fair for us to think that was going to happen.
Right.
This whole phenomenon of scoring as a lead guard, this is like new to this era. That wasn't happening in our era.
Right.
So you can make these cases and then all of a sudden start comparing. Michael Jordan was a two guard. What is Shai, a lead guard or a two guard? Which one is he? But in today's game, there's a lot of lead guards that can score. There's Ja Morant, there's Steph Curry, there's
Everyone,
De'Aaron Fox.
everyone can score their point guard in this game.
That's a new phenomenon that, for better or for worse, that didn't happen for us. I mean, I couldn't explore that. Isaiah Thomas, who was the best out of all of us, he made a decision to do that. I say this all the time. He was Allen Iverson before Allen Iverson, but he chose to do the other things that a lead guard could do. Isaiah could score.
Oh, no question.
He could score with the best of them, but he chose the team responsibility instead of just becoming an elite scorer. He could have easily averaged 30 points a game. He was literally that good. And you saw it every now and then when he needed to do it. He would have quarters or moments and games or stretches. He was that good. That's the best out of all those little guys. All of them. Those 6-foot guys, he was the best one because he could choose whatever he wanted to do. He was that talented. So in saying all of that, I'm going to give Shai all of his credit. He is, in today's game, as a lead guard, he is a handful, Scott. No question. He's a handful.
No question.
I admire what he's doing. I can't wait to see what he does in the playoffs and continue to watch him in today's era. We're old enough, Scott and I are old enough to say that. But we've seen the game evolve, and because we're authentic and we respect the game, we're not going to disrespect the game. That's what people are doing. You poo-poo what the previous generation has done or did. There were Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier. These were some pretty good guys. One of my favorite, Michael Ray Richardson.
Super talented.
The Sugar Man. These guys, there's some great players. Andrew Toney. They're great, great players in any era. However, I'm going to look at this era for what it is and stop all of the comparison because we owe that to the next generation so that they can see the rules of the game. The game is different. I wish I liked the way the game used to be because it was a physical game. It wasn't played anywhere else in the world other than in the NBA. Now, Scott and I, in particular, Mo, and you can do this too because you live in Europe. The FIBA game is probably the most physical game in the world.
Yep.
The physicality of the game in Europe
Yep.
is
And
much more
you hear
physical
it
than the
from
NBA.
Luka, Jokic, all of these guys have said it's easier to score in the NBA than it is
Think
to score
about
elsewhere.
Think about that. And that never would have been said years ago.
That to me says it all. That to me says everything that I need to hear. So no, I'm not old. I've just moved on. I'm moved on past the way the game used to be, and I'm looking at it for what it is. And Luka is right. He's right. It's a different game now. So because we've moved on, no, Mo, don't be old school. Be the real school. Just call it like it is. Call it what you see, how the game is played, and then let's begin to say what it's going to look like. Because remember, we're in the era of shooting right now, and Shai could be an MVP. And Scott scouted him and evaluated him. And if I remember correctly, Scott, you brought him into the New York Knicks to work out. Think about this: Shai, Jokic, Giannis, Luka Doncic, and all of these guys. They play more like the old school players than the new school, and these guys are going to be the MVP. Giannis, he's not a shooter. Back-to-back MVP. Jokic isn't like this elite athlete where we running, jumping, and three-time MVP. Shai Alexander, the big knock on him, Scott, was he couldn't shoot. This guy has been all NBA, last 2 years, first team? And he could be very well the MVP this year. I'm impressed how the game keeps coming back to the essence of what it is. I'm always impressed with the fundamentals of the game. And guess what, Scott, Mo? That's not old school. That's not new school. That's just what it is. So if anything, get back to the fundamentals of the game. You could play in any era, regardless of the rules and the changes of everything that we're talking about.
When you think about that, that's an excellent point. Whether it's basketball, football, baseball, football over in Europe, Mo, which is soccer, the teams that have the players and have instilled the fundamental level of execution and can still execute fundamentals at a high level, oftentimes are the ones that end up winning and are successful. You can't escape the fundamentals. And that's what this new generation of MVPs in the NBA are showing you. That, to BJ's point, they're taking you back in time some because they're not the most athletic players, maybe with the exception of Giannis, but he's long. But they are highly skilled basketball players. Jokic, he probably can't jump 10 inches off the ground, but he's the best player in the world because he knows how to play. He knows how to pass. He knows how to pivot. He sees the floor. He sees 1 and 2 plays ahead. Shai understands angles. Again, he understands, angles to get around people, angles how to finish at the rim. Just all of those things. And the year that Joel Embiid won it, look at the footwork the big fella has. You're going back in time with footwork of, some of the game's great centers that all had great footwork, from the Hakeem Olajuwons and Jabars and all those guys, man. So it's amazing how you always get back to fundamentals. And my hope for the game at large now is that we start getting more fundamental teaching that these guys are bringing over here from overseas at our youth levels, from both high school and college, that we really get back to that, because we got tremendous athletes playing the game now. Now but the ones that are winning and winning all awards right now at our level, and Luka hasn't won one yet, but he's another one who.
Oh, he's got a Lakers jersey on now. He'll go win it next year.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you
He'll
that
get
for
one
free
now
right
with Lakers.
now. Luka's
Exactly.
winning
Yeah,
MVP next
exactly.
year. I'll tell you that for free.